Today we're going to take a little tour of San Francisco. On a recent trip here, I noticed some plaques in the ground. They said Barbary Coast Trail and pointed certain directions. So I went home and looked it up. Now we're at the start of the trail. It says on May 12, 1848, Samuel Brannan rode through the streets of San Francisco waving a bottle of gold and yelling, "Gold, gold, gold from the American River." This trail was put together. The southern end of it begins at the old U.S. Mint. It extends to Aquatic Park near Fisherman's Wharf. It connects 20 historic sites, including the original shoreline of Yerba Buena Cove, the birthplace of the Gold Rush, Jackson Square, the Pony Express, the oldest cathedral west of the Rockies, the first Asian neighborhood in America, and the largest collection of historic ships in the U.S. Come along as I follow the trail. Built in 1874, the Old Mint is the oldest stone federal building on the West Coast and a National Historic Landmark. The federal government constructed the Mint to accommodate a massive bonanza from the Comstock Lode, one of the wealthiest silver strikes in mining history. At one time, the Granite Lady held a third of all the gold reserves in the United States, making it the Fort Knox of the West. Next is Market Street, designed in 1847 by Jasper O'Farrell. He surveyed the 120-foot wide roadway diagonally to existing streets. Then we have the path of the golden lampposts. Zoom in on one over there. Installed along Market Street in 1917, these magnificent 3-light torches were the first electric lampposts to illuminate a San Francisco street. The bas relief design of the base pays homage to the miners and pioneers who won the West. Then we have the 1906 Flood Building. For a time, it was the largest and most prestigious building in the city. Beautiful sandstone building. And as we continue following the trail, Our next stop is the historic cable cars. Maybe we'll take a ride on these later. The Westin St. Francis Hotel. For over 90 years, it's been the premier hotel hosting legendary celebrities. It was destroyed in the 1906 fire and immediately rebuilt just as extravagantly. Right across the street from Union Square. And next we have historic Union Square. Got the history of it here. Across from Union Square, we have Maiden Lane. There's the Maiden Lane gates. Walking down this street, you would be greeted by women not wearing very much, offering a touch for a price. And on Maiden Lane, right over here, we have a Frank Lloyd Wright building. Next we enter Chinatown with this magnificent triple portal gate. Now we have St. Mary's Square, a quiet little park surrounded by the busy city. Its most notable feature is a stainless steel granite sculpture of Dr. Sun Yat-sen, considered the father of Chinese democracy. The Sing Fat and Sing Chong buildings. These iconic pagoda-topped buildings were built immediately after the 1906 fire to keep this place established as Chinatown, as some developers wanted to just expand the business district when Chinatown burned. St. Mary's Cathedral, built in 1854. Just below the clock says, "Sun, observe the time and fly from evil." Walking through Chinatown, you're sure to notice a lot of associations, or tongues. Tongues means association. They formed a lot of them to help cope with the isolation of being in America and being somewhat of an outcast while trying to find employment. Walking into Tung Fong Trading Company is like stepping into another place in time. This is one of 47 herb shops in Chinatown, specializing in ancient Chinese curative remedies. Next we have Waverly Place, the street of painted balconies. The flash of a hatchet in the moonlight preceded one of the most notorious and bloody Tong battles on this narrow two-block street in 1875. But even before the criminal Tongs held their 30-year reign of terror over Chinatown, San Franciscans knew Waverly Place as the residence of two of its most beautiful and accomplished madams, Atoy and Belcora. The first Chinese Baptist church, founded in 1880, built with clinker brick. San Francisco once prohibited Chinese from attending public schools. This church, along with others, played an important role in providing much needed classes for women and children. Famed architect Julia Morgan designed this building for the YWCA in the 1930s, incorporating pagoda roof tiles, intricately carved screens, and other Asian motifs. It's now the Chinese Historical Society of America Museum. Ross Alley is one of Chinatown's busiest alleyways, home to a mix of residences and businesses reflecting the everyday life and cultural traditions of the neighborhood. The Sambo Trading Company at 51 Ross Alley. This shop contains an exotic world of religious offerings that are used to pay respects to past relatives. The Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Factory, 56 Ross Alley. You can always anticipate Golden Gate Fortune cookies by the delicious smell of the fresh hot fortune cookie wafting up Ross Alley. This triple-decker pagoda-style roof on the building is the grandest example of this type of Chinese architecture. Built in 1909, when the Chinese community wished to re-establish its presence after the earthquake. It originally housed the Chinese telephone office. Years before Chinatown was established, this was the site of the California Star, the first newspaper in San Francisco. Started by Samuel Brannan, a Mormon settler who sailed around the tip of South America to get here. Here we're in Portsmouth Square, looking at the high-rises and brick Edwardians hovering around. It's difficult to imagine the sleepy trading post of Yerba Buena, established here in 1835. Surveyed in 1839, during the Mexican era, Portsmouth Square is San Francisco's oldest public area. Here we are on Commercial Street. This little street was once the busiest street in town, the center of town. The long wharf came in from the bay up to here. Here we have Emperor Norton's Imperial Palace. And Empire Park. Here we have the San Francisco Historical Society in the site of the first U.S. branch mint. Across the street was the Hudson Bay Company. On this block, the Yerba Buenos waterfront stood. This whole financial district was the bay and is the graveyard to many ships. We'll come to a plaque over here about the ship Niantic. There's many other ships buried all around here where these buildings now stand. Tucked away over here, there's a plaque to one of the early African American pioneers, Alexander Leadsdorf, builder, entrepreneur, missionary, pioneer. Also have the site of the What Cheer House, a unique hotel that opened in 1852, destroyed in 1906. Catered to men only, permitted no liquor, and housed San Francisco's first free library and first museum. The cavernous coffered ceilings and ornate brass teller cages in the lobby of this building evoke an era where banks spent enormous sums to impress their customers. Built in 1908 by banking legend A.P. Giannini, this landmark Beaux-Arts building served as headquarters for his infant Bank of Italy. The first Pony Express rider to carry mail from St. Joseph, Missouri to California arrived here April 14th, 1860. This was the site of the Alta California Telegraph Office, headquarters of the Pony Express. Since its introduction to the San Francisco skyline in 1972, the Transamerica Pyramid has been one of the city's most visible landmarks. Capped with a 212-foot hollow spire that's lit at night, it is the tallest building in the city. This is part of the graveyard for Gold Rush ships. Much of this financial district is built on top of sunken ships. The Niantic has a plaque on that building. The Niantic brought 248 eager gold rushers to San Francisco. Once anchored, its crew stampeded out of town with the passengers. The Niantic's owner then pulled the ship ashore, dismantled its masts and riggings, and constructed offices on its desk for a warehouse. In 1851, one of the 6 fires that swept through the area burned the ship but left the hull below ground intact. In less than a month, a lodging house called the Niantic Hotel was built over its remains. In 1872, the hotel was replaced by an office building. During its construction, crews found the old ship's hull and 35 baskets of champagne still quite drinkable. Don't miss the giant redwoods next to the pyramid. Built in 1851, the Belly Building was originally a waterfront warehouse on the shores of the Yerba Buena Cove, with wharfs built up to its rear entrance. The rustic brick facade, dentiled cornices and roofline, and arched pediments over the windows embody Gold Rush era San Francisco. This three-story Italianate building was constructed in 1853. It was also the first meeting place of the Masonic Lodge in California. And across the street, the first Jewish services in San Francisco were held here, in a second floor room and a store which stood on this location. 40 pioneers of Jewish faith gathered on Yom Kippur, September 26, 1849, and participated in the first Jewish religious service. The Golden Era building, the original structure on this site, was erected in 1849 and destroyed in one of the Sydney Duck arson fires in 1851. Rebuilt in 1852, raised lettering at the bottom of the cast iron pilasters. It says 1897 here on the front, but 1857 on the back side. The Golden Era was a early literary weekly that published, among others, Mark Twain and Bret Harte. The Sherman Building, constructed in 1853. The Montgomery Street side is finished in classical Italianate granite, while the red brick side on Jackson Street was originally covered in stucco. The Solari buildings, built in 1850. This building's front exterior and shutters and timber architecture typify classic Wells Fargo Express office style architecture common to this period. This building, since its construction, the tenants have included the French, Spanish, and Chilean consulates, Italian Benevolent Society, as well as wine and liquor merchants. And if we cross the street and look back, these are the huddling buildings. Annex East and West. Highly decorated buildings. 1 West and 2 East. 2 of them down there. Anson Huddling was a liquor and real estate magnate who spared no expense on his headquarters and used them as offices and warehouses. In 1857, Domenico Ghirardelli moved his business, Ghirardelli's California chocolate manufactory, into this building on Jackson Street, later expanding to this building as well. And then in 1893, moving over to Beach Street, where Ghirardelli Square is currently located. It was here on Jackson Street that one of his workmen made a discovery that would revolutionize the chocolate industry. He found that by hanging a bag of pure raw chocolate in a warm room, the cocoa butter drips out, leaving a residue that can be processed into ground chocolate or cocoa powder. The Old Ship Saloon. The short detour leads to the site that tells the tale of Barbary Coast better than any other. The Old Ship Saloon is the only remaining Barbary Coast era Shanghaiing den in San Francisco. Henry Klee was one of the many crimps to Shanghai sailors at this location. These two posts once held an arched sign that said International Settlement. It was an attempt to revive the neighborhood as a nightclub and restaurant haven in the 1940s. The Little Fox Theater building, built in 1907, was a shabby dive called the Midway until Red Kelly renovated it. In 1922, it was used in Prohibition to operate a distillery. In 1973, Francis Ford Coppola purchased and renovated the three buildings, using them as his studio to produce Apocalypse Now and Black Stallion. The Thalia was built in 1906 and was the hottest dance hall on the street. It was the birthplace of Texas Tommy, a dance that soon became famous across the country. Now called the Hippodrome, this was Bella Union, built in 1907 and named after the famous gambling house located at Portsmouth Square in the 1800s. Constructed in 1907, this building housed two of the coast's most active resorts. Purcell's occupied a long, narrow portion along the left side of the building and was one of the best-known African-American dance halls. Spider Kelly gained fame as a lightweight prize fighter before taking up saloon keeping. When Rosa Parks refused to sit on the back of the bus in 1956, she sparked a civil rights movement. 90 years earlier, Mary Ellen Pleasant, a mixed-race woman of remarkable talents, took an identical stand near the corner of Pacific and Columbus Streets, resulting in the integration of San Francisco's public transportation. A unique perspective on two of San Francisco's most distinctive buildings, each from eras that are clearly worlds apart. Columbus Tower, the 7-story classic revival, while once a state-of-the-art building, looks like a quaint dwarf under the shadow of the soaring 48-story Trans-American Pyramid. Some of the classic and historic businesses in this neighborhood: the Vesuvio, City of Lights bookstore, opened in 1853, Tosca Cafe, and Specs. Broadway, the blazing lights and explicit signs on the sex shops and clubs between Columbus and Montgomery often mislead visitors into believing they've stumbled onto a seedy area. Part bookstore, part museum, the Beat offers an extensive array of books written by and about the Beat generation. The Saloon, one of the few buildings in this neighborhood to survive the earthquake and fire.
Oh, Georgian cheese boat!
The owner lived up above. One of San Francisco's favorite Italian espresso cafes, opened in 1956. St. Francis of Assisi Church. French Catholics first dedicated this church in 1849 during the Gold Rush. The West Coast's first Roman Catholic parish church. When you walk into Molinari's, the thick aroma of Parmesan cheese salami and olive oil magically transports you to the shops of Milan, Florence, and Genoa. You won't find cigars in this cozy corner cafe anymore. Today it's the ultimate North Beach nook, a perfect rendezvous for cappuccino, red wine, and soaking up the local color. 3 landmarks here. Washington Square, St. Peter and St. Paul Church, and Coit Tower. I just got done walking up to the tower and back down, but I hear the view from up here is worth it, so we'll go up some more stairs. The view from up these 63 steps is supposed to be worth it. Yeah, I'd say that's worth it. You can see the Golden Gate Bridge back there. Alcatraz. How would it be to live right there? Pier 39 used to be a working deepwater pier. It's been transformed into San Francisco's biggest attraction, and the 3rd biggest attraction in the world, with 10 million visitors every year. Pier 41 is popular for taking excursions out into the bay to places like Alcatraz Island.
seen this amazing grand finale. If you guys don't have any money, you don't have to walk away and leave. All we ask you to do is walk up to one of us, give us a high five, tell us you enjoy.
The USS Pempinito Museum and Memorial, another popular stop. A restored submarine. And Fisherman's Wharf, another thing synonymous with San Francisco. The cannery was an old cannery and has been transformed into shops and restaurants, just keeping the outer brick exterior walls, redoing everything inside. Also included in part of the cannery is the visitor center for the national park. Love to see you there. Here we're coming into San Francisco Maritime National Historical Park. They've got, I believe, 6 historic ships out on the Hyde Pier. There's this aquatic park and Ghirardelli Square. Below the Ghirardelli Square, we have the Maritime Museum.
Did you buy your flight yet for Christmas? Right there.
And then we end with the famous Buena Vista Cafe. Beautiful building. That's the end of the Barbary Coast Trail. It's fun to see what they took us to see. There's the finishing plaque, and you can get on the trolley cars here to head back to the beginning. Definitely a fun day. Definitely recommend.